What's up, friends? It's Chris Angel coming at you for another episode of Marketing for the Rest of Us. Listen, this is episode 256. And at this point, I've been doing all of my episodes on my page, Marketing for the Rest of Us. And I decided to bring this to my profile on Facebook because I know there's a lot of you who would engage with this. So I'm experimenting. Here's the thing about marketing. You're always experimenting. You're always testing. I think for a lot of people, we don't know that. We don't remember that about marketing. We think that marketing is this thing we do, we plan, we coordinate, then we create, and then we put out in the world and we hope it works. And when it doesn't work, we're like, it didn't work. Forgetting that so much of marketing is simply testing. You've got to test, try. And once you figure it out, just know that once you figure it out, it's probably going to change. So we're always moving. We're always testing. So I'm putting this to my personal profile and I'm going to play with the workflows in my marketing. Okay, let's talk about this episode. So this episode is about how do you hold, right? How do you hold all the information and ideas that come at you as an entrepreneur? For somebody who's in business for themselves, most of us, we have lots of ideas. We see the whole picture a lot of times. And then when it comes to actually implementing, that's pretty overwhelming because there's lots of details that come with implementing, right? And as you start to implement, which is a slower pace, implementation is a slower pace, right? Like the pace of ideas happens fast. Like ideas happen like this, but implementation happens like this. So when you're stuck in implementation, more ideas, they don't stop. They just keep coming. So more ideas are piling on top of each other as you're trying to implement the first idea you had like forever ago. And this becomes a problem for us as entrepreneurs, as business people. And what can happen if we don't know how to hold this information or these ideas, what happens is we panic. We panic. And two things happen. One, two paths emerge. The first path that emerges is that we shut down. We're like, there's too much information coming in and not enough implementation going out. And so I can't handle that all. And I say, screw it, I'm not doing it. And we just shut down. By the way, that doesn't mean that the ideas don't start coming, right? So you just, what happens is you start to medicate in whatever your preferred method of medication is, you start to medicate ways to not have to deal with all the input that keeps coming. Knowing that if you try to implement, that just takes even more energy. It's one thing to receive all the downloads you get, but it's another thing to start implementing. So we shut down. That's the first option we have, is to shut down. Now, you and I know that doesn't serve us well, right? Like, to shut down gets you no further on your life's path and the important things you're up to in this world. So that's not a great option. The second option, or the second path that emerges, is that we try to implement them all. We're like, oh my God, like, here they come. We just start scooping buckets of ideas into the world. We're like, let me try this and I'll try that. And pretty soon we're spread so thin that we're not getting traction with any of them. And this is an interesting thought, is that if you bring sunken costs into the equation, right? So a sunken cost is something where you say to yourself, but I've already invested this much money, or but I've already put this much time in, or but I've already planned it out this far. And if you do that, and so sunken cost is, I've already done this much, I can't give up now. So if you do that with 2 ideas, 5 ideas, 10 ideas, what happens is your sunken costs on 10 ideas keep you in the game of all 10 ideas, and you get jack for results. And what happens is, you not only do you end up fatigued and burned out, but like literally in your body, you get adrenal fatigue. Like, you actually burn your physical body out. So there is no chance of you actually making progress in your goals. You did it to yourself, right? Like, but that's the curse of being an entrepreneur. That's the curse of going into business for yourself. Is that you go, I have a vision of what I want to create for my life. And then off you go, and in come all the ideas. And like I said, you have 2 paths. You can either shut down because the input is overwhelming and it's too much and you don't know how to implement it all, or you try to take them all on and you burn yourself out physically and emotionally. And this, friends, is the exact experience of most entrepreneurs. And this is why most entrepreneurs can't go the distance. This is why most entrepreneurs go and get a job or suffer brokenness for the rest of their lives, having their family and their friends look at them as dreamers who couldn't produce the result. That sucks. That sucks. And you know that sucks. That's the worst. So so we don't have to go down down into the shadows much further, right? Like you get it because you live this. So, and I've lived this. I've lived this more times than you can count. So what do we do with that, right? Like, what do we do with that? Well, we have to learn how to hold all of it, right? Hold it. You hold it. It's not, holding it has a different energy to it, right? Do you understand? Like, one is what the first scenario that I just laid out for you in the first part of this video is that you're a victim to all of these ideas. That's the curse of it all. The curse is it comes in and you don't know what to do with it. And so you either don't do any of it or you try to do it all. The blessing of it, if you could rise above where you currently are mentally and start to think of this rather than a curse, but as a collaboration with the universe. Your life and your important work in this planet is a collaboration with the universe. And because because you have access to these great ideas, that is proof and evidence of your connectedness to the divine, to consciousness. Like that, you get this. Others don't get this kind of download. You get these downloads. And that is a blessing. And so your job, part of your responsibility is to develop the capacity to hold all of this input. And if you can think of it that way, what happens is you start to catalog it. You start to organize it. You start to put it on a shelf and say, that's a great idea. I'm going to put that one right here. And the next idea comes and you say, that's another good idea. I'm going to put it over here. And you start to build this archive or this treasure chest, this hope chest of amazing assets and ideas that will serve you if you could just hold them long enough, that there will be a moment where you can implement them. So in order to do that, as you continue to receive the downloads of ideas and information, you want to be able to organize them, or at least, I'm not very organized, so at least write them in a journal or put them somewhere. Okay, maybe you have a 3-ring binder, right? Like maybe you grab a binder like this, right? And on the binder, you have 3-ring lined paper, 3-hole punched paper, and you write a piece of paper on the top of every paper. You write the idea. And you might, over the course of a year, have 365 pieces of paper with just nothing but the title on top. At least it's cataloged somewhere, right? Okay, now, as you do that, you have to start to think about what is the most important thing I can do, right? What is the most important thing I can do? I love the book, The One Thing, for this particular concept, right? That there is a 20% that gives me 80% of my results. So I can't do it all. You'll never be able to do it all. So you have to figure out, of all my options right now, which option, of all the downloads I've received, of all the ideas I've gotten, which idea is best for me. Now, so let me do a side note here because this is important. When I was younger, I picked the ideas that felt like they had the most money attached to them. And as I've gotten older, I'm picking the ideas that are most aligned to who I am and the mission I'm here for. Knowing that money is a fruit of alignment. Money is a fruit of alignment. That's not how I used to do it. So I used to put my strategy hat on because I have a strategic strength, right? If you go to Strength Finder's profile, I think my second or third strength is strategic. It's like I just see patterns and see how to make things work. And that was actually a downfall for me because I actually made decisions based on what was strategic, not necessarily what was in alignment. Do you see the difference? So you have to start to figure out what is in alignment, and of what's in alignment, what can produce the most results. And from that place, you go to work and implement. You implement that, and you implement some more, and then you implement some more. And all the time of implementing, you're going to receive more ideas and more information. It never stops for you and me. If you're tuned in vertically, if you're tuned in to consciousness, right, you will never stop getting downloads. Ideas and iterations will always come. So you need, as you implement, you need to develop your capacity to hold these ideas. And so on top of prioritizing and figuring out what's in alignment, the second thing I want you to do then is to begin to, the word that's coming to me is breathe. You just need to breathe through it. Your life, and maybe gratitude. It's such a cliche word now, but like there is this thing about, there's this knowing that I can hold all of these ideas and information, and I don't have to panic. See, most people's reflex is to panic. Like, oh my God, there's too much. I can't implement this, and then we shut down. But if in that moment when all the ideas come and the first thought is panic, the second thought is, wait, if I could breathe through this, I know that I am in alignment, I am on my path, and this idea that came to me may not be for now, but I can hold it and catalog it for later. That little thought process, that little tweak in mindset allows you to stay present to the work you're doing and be grateful for and hold on to the idea that came for a future purpose, right? That's like, guys, that's it. Like, it sounds so simple to say it this way, right? But to be able to breathe in the face of panic, in the face of anxiety, to breathe when things feel overwhelming. I said I like to listen to podcasts on 1.5 speed. Right? Everything now at 1 time speed almost feels too slow. So at 1.5 speed, and I asked other people, how do you listen to that? And people who listen to 1 time speed, somebody said, it's too fast. Like, it makes me anxious, which I get. I mean, that's totally your thing, right? So cool. But it's an interesting exercise, isn't it? To listen to something like a podcast at 1.5 speed and to use that as a simulation of triggering a panic response or an anxious response, and then just breathing through the information that comes. Let it wash over you. Just let it wash over you. Just be with the speed of it all. Because listen, isn't that interesting? Like, that is what your brain does. Your brain works at that speed. Your brain works at more than 1.5 speed. And so it's interesting, isn't it, that to listen to a podcast at 1.5 speed creates anxiety for you. And so you won't do it. But you can't control the speed at which your brain works. And so you're sort of a victim to the speed at which your brain operates. Interesting. That'd be an interesting exercise. If I were going to give you homework, I would say go listen to podcasts at 1.5 speed. Go listen to podcasts at 1.5 speed. Without the attachment to every single word that is being spoken, just let it wash over you and be with the speed of information, because your brain is working at, I would say, 2 to 5 times. I mean, your brain's going like this all the time. That is a natural environment for you. And yet when you listen to a podcast at 1.5 speed, you freak out. So interesting, right? Like, there's this conditioning that is required for you to be able to hold all the information that comes at you as an entrepreneur. And it's important. And so we're wrapping up here. It's important that you be able to hold all the information that comes at you, because if you can't, and if you don't, what happens is you either shut down, which is not good for your goals and where you're trying to go, or you try to implement them all for fear that you'll lose the ideas, but implementing them all at once is also not a great idea. So the answer here, friends, the answer is to develop the capacity to hold the ideas while at the same time figuring out which of the ideas is most in alignment with who you are, what your mission is, and how you're wired. And if you can figure that out, right, I can't tell you what that is. That's your journey, right? That's for you to figure out. But if you can figure that out, what happens is now you have the best of both worlds. You've got the capacity to hold all the ideas and downloads that come to you while also implementing and making progress on the things you've said you are up to in this world, right? So here's your homework. To make this super simple, all I want you to do is go listen to the podcast that you normally listen to them at 1.5 speed. If you already listen at 1.5 speed, listen at 1.75. Or I know in iTunes you can only listen at 1.5, and 2. Try them at 2 times speed. And again, don't panic when it's so fast that you can't understand. Just breathe, let it wash over you, and just be with the pace of it all. Because your brain is already at 2 times speed, if not more. Your brain is already working that. So this is simply an exercise. This homework is simply an exercise for you to develop your capacity to hold all the ideas and inspirations that come at you on a daily basis, okay? All right, gang, that's it for today. Thanks for hanging out with me for this episode of Marketing for the Rest of Us. If you'd like to learn more about how I teach people marketing, you can go to groundswellmethod.com, watch the free video, and on the last page of that video is an application for my 6-week program. My 6-week program the next one starts this very next Monday. All right, so if you're watching this live, the very next Monday, January 6th, is the next Groundswell Method Intensive, where for 6 weeks we've moved through what is your message to the world? How do you keep making progress on your marketing and the things you want to create in this world? And by the end of the 6-week program, you actually launch your own podcast in the world. That is the outcome. That is the outcome of the program. So if you've been thinking about a podcast, or you know you have a message for the world, but you have not been consistent, I highly recommend the Groundswell Method Intensive. To get started, go to groundswellmethod.com, watch the free video, and on the last page, fill out the application. Thanks, gang, for hanging out tonight. Here's to you, having capacity and holding all the ideas and downloads while making progress on your important work. See you tomorrow.